Welcome to our coffee chat with Workday. Today we'll be discussing PSA for professional services firms. PSA is an industry standard term. It stands for Professional Services Automation, and essentially it's the capability to manage ongoing projects, to manage backlog, which is the work that you've committed to but not delivered yet, as well as plan for upcoming work that your firm is pursuing. And in addition to that, managing your resources, doing your project billing, and doing revenue recognition specific to your contracts. I'm your co-host today. My name is Patrice Capello. I'm the Global Head of Professional and Business Services here at Workday. I've been here for almost 4 years, and essentially it's my role to understand what's happening in the market globally and really what firms are dealing with from an external pressures and an internal pressures perspective, and ensure that we continue to develop solutions that innovate the way professional services firms work. Joining me today from Workday is also my peer, Ben McLaughlin. If you would take a moment, Ben, to introduce yourself.
Thanks, Patrice. My name is Ben McLaughlin. Like Patrice, I've also been with Workday for almost 4 years, joining Workday after having 15 years experience implementing PSA solutions and project portfolio management solutions. I'm a senior solution consultant here at Workday, and that means that my role is to work with our existing customers and prospective customers to help them understand our products and how they can use those products to solve their business challenges.
Excellent. Thank you. So we have an action-packed agenda for our coffee chat today. So we'll spend a few moments talking about professional services automation and why Workday. And then we're joined by our customer BNB, who will take you through their story as a customer of Workday's. And then Ben will take us through the product so that you get a sneak peek of PSA capabilities within Workday. And then we'll wrap up our coffee chat. So why Workday for PSA? A couple of points I want to highlight for you. In all of the industries that we focus on here at Workday globally, 4 of those industries are designated as strategic. Professional and business services is one of the 4. And really what that means is that we have an industry-funded roadmap specific to building out capabilities and what I'd mentioned, really innovating how firms in this space can work. We have more than 480 customers globally that have selected Workday in this industry. And we're really excited. We have over 320 customers who have adopted the PSA capabilities within Workday. So what really makes our offering unique is that Workday is one single solution. So our PSA is natively part of our financials and part of our HCM solution. So what you often find in the market is a PSA solution that is either standalone, which then has to be integrated back into other solutions, or it's offered as part of a financial solution. So we're really unique in the sense that because it's all one solution, PSA has access to all that rich HCM data as well. And so ultimately what that translates to is what we call a talent-centric PSA. So just to break that down a little bit, from a project's perspective, your projects understand all there is to know about a worker. So all of that rich data that's accumulated about your workers, your billable resources, projects understands that and can help you make better informed decisions to put the right people on the right projects. Other things that it offers is the ability to provide feedback about a worker at the project level, as well as performance. And think about the strength of that, because being able to understand how a worker performed at a project level is so much more impactful than just going through some annual performance cycle with a manager that a worker might rarely see or interact with throughout the year. Another great example of a talent-centric PSA is if one of the positions that we need to fill on a particular project with a specific skill set, if we need to go outside as a firm to look for a particular person, projects understands recruiting. And so the project manager or the person performing resource management for a particular project can see how that requisition is moving through and how close we are to actually bringing on a person to fill that particular role. So it really empowers and opens up people's ability to see across the organization and see really all of the things that are going to impact their project. So with that, those few keynotes, I'd like to turn it over to BNB, who's been a longtime customer of Workday's, and specifically Javier Delgado, a managing partner of BNB, is here to share with you their journey with Workday.
Thank you, Patrice, and thank you for having me. As you said, I'm managing partner at BNB, taking currently care of the operations at BNB. So I'm basically managing all the operations in our organization. So before we jump into how was your journey, our journey with Workday, let me describe a little bit more about BNB. So we are an IT consulting organization, so really belonging to the professional services industry. So we can really take advantage of Workday PSA. And we are currently focused on Workday and machine learning services, but that was not the case throughout all our history. So basically we were founded in 2003 and we have evolved over time to this current focus right now on Workday and machine learning services. Right now, today we have over 120 employees. And although you may think this is probably less than most of our customers at Workday, we share many of the complexities that other bigger customers have, because in a way we are a micro multinational with presence in 6 countries with 7 different offices and business in a lot of countries around the globe. So really we did have this complexity, and this was one of the reasons why we started looking for a PSA solution. Now, before we jump into why we chose Workday, let me describe a little bit of what was our journey together with Workday. So please, Ben, can we go? Okay, thank you. So we actually started looking for a PSA solution back in 2015. It wasn't until July 2016 that we decided to go for Workday. I'm going to cover later what were the reasons why we went with Workday, but essentially just to keep in mind that our main objective was to implement a PSA solution. That is really the core business of any professional services organization. So really that was the problem we needed to solve. Now it became very quickly apparent that we needed to have more than just PSA. So in our first phase, we implemented financials, PSA, and core HCM. Basically, we started in September 2016, and in just over 6 months, we were able to go live in all countries with all employees in it. A little bit after, in December 2017, we started moving in our journey to talent. So the first thing is, well, how we measure the talent, how we encourage our employees to develop themselves. So essentially in 2017, we roll out talent and performance. Later in March 2018, we went live with recruiting, this time acquiring new talent, not only developing the existing talent. And finally, just 1 year ago, we implemented Workday Learning and adaptive planning. In a way, was very helpful with all these changes that the COVID pandemics brought, because we were really able to react in a remote way to continue developing our skills with Workday Learning, to continue planning very proactively with adaptive planning. So let's now jump into why we chose Workday. If we look back to 2015, where we were looking for a PSA solution, we quickly understood that it was key to have an integrated platform, not only for PSA, but also for financials and for human resources. So the best platform for this was Workday, and that was one of the key decision points why we went with Workday. The second point, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about that later, is that one of the objectives we had with the PSA solution was to empower our project managers in taking decisions. But not only our project managers, we wanted to move away from our previous data warehouse approach, where we had all the operational data in one system, and we needed to wait until it was refreshed on our data warehouse. So essentially, we wanted to have real-time analytics, and Workday really excels in that area. So all these capabilities you have to drill down and take action on the information and the dashboards you have at Workday are really great and were a key decision point. And finally, we had a really great advantage by deciding to go with Workday, essentially because we were familiar with Workday and we were familiar also with other solutions as consultants. So one of the things that really Workday makes a difference is the continuous evolution of its platform. I mean, you have heard probably many times about the power of one, and the best translation of the power of one is the evolution you will see in each of the functional areas. But very particularly in PSA, we have experienced a very, very significant change since we went live to today's, where we have a lot of new business process cover, a lot of new requirements that we could cover with PSA. So that's really great for any customer that is looking for a PSA solution. Now, let's go into what we use today of Workday PSA. And essentially, as I said, we are using almost the full Workday platform suite. I guess the only things we are missing is inventory and Prism Analytics, and probably Extend too, but that's about it. We have the entire suite. And today we have 1,500 projects in Workday PSA, both historical and active projects, ranging from fixed price to time and materials. We have implemented a collaborative resource forecasting in a way project managers create the resource forecast, but then our consultants who actually look at the forecast and are able to make changes to it and make adjustments. So we have a very trustable resource forecast. So we also implemented integrations, particularly with our CRM, which is not Salesforce. Workday provides a connector to Salesforce, but in our case, we had to implement this integration to basically bring opportunities from the CRM as projects in Workday PSA. And we also implemented an integration with Facebook Workplace, which is our internal social network, in order to drive employee engagement. So for example, when you create a feedback in Workday, it is published in our social network so other employees can comment on it. Or when we create a project in Workday, we create a group in Facebook Workplace. So those are integrations that are actually driving more, let's say, more value to our business. And finally, as I said, analytics were really key for us. So we developed a number of reports based on the existing reports. We also built dashboards. We also took advantage of the new dashboards that were delivered over time. So really today, we have a very good suite of reporting and analytics tools. Now, let's move into the benefits we realized just after implementing Workday. And I want to highlight that these are probably the benefits we realized immediately. And then I will talk about the benefits that came down the line. So the first one is that we really achieved a much more streamlined revenue processing. So we were able to detect when invoices were not issued on time. We were able to send alerts to project managers. And by that, we improved our collections. The second point is that based on the analytics, we had a much better control on project financials. We are able to obtain P&L, the current P&L of a project. We are able to obtain, together with adaptive planning, the forecasted P&L of a project. And we have, using project hierarchies, which is a very nice feature of Workday PSA, control of all our project portfolio by looking at it in different dimensions. So that's absolutely great for any professional service organization. And finally, we achieved the goal of increasing the worker engagement. So basically, but making project managers and also consultants part of the process that bring operational excellence, such as resource forecasting. Now, these are the benefits that we obtained just immediately after going live. Then over time, we realized other benefits. So in the evolution of our organization together with Workday, we realized that Workday provides much more value than it was really apparent in the beginning. The first point is that we're really key for our transformation. So over time, we changed our focus from on-premise solution to cloud solutions such as Workday. That basically brought a lot of difference in how we look at projects, how we group our project portfolio. And we were able to do all of this in a matter of days, really. I mean, we changed the hierarchies, we changed some reports, and that was it. So basically, very quick transformation that we could deliver in Workday. The same is related to business agility. So we had to create new consulting practices or investment areas that we wanted to analyze separately. That is very easy to do with the flexibility that Workday brings to the table. And finally, it has really been very helpful on going with our growth. So essentially, as we grew into a large organization, certain processes had to be changed, namely resource management. And that was the centralized resource management that we implemented earlier this year was really key to be more efficient as a professional service organization. So all in all, I would say that we are not only happy about what kind of value Workday delivered at the beginning of our implementation, but right now, almost after 4 years of being live, we are really happy of the journey we have taken together. So thanks again for having me.
Thank you, Javier. You know, I always love to hear the BNB story, and I love to catch up with you to hear what you're doing next. You're certainly highly invested in Workday and continue to evolve the business with Workday as the platform and do new things. So it's always exciting to get an update on what BNB is doing. So thanks so much for sharing that. And I think it's always much more valuable from potential customers hearing from a customer and what their experience has been like.
Thank you, Patricia.
I'm sure next you'd love to see a little bit of the product. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to Ben to take us through just a highlight of our PSA solution. And with that, Ben, I'll stop sharing and turn it over to you.
Thanks, Patrice. And thanks, Javier, for helping us understand how you all are using Workday today and how that's impacting your business. We really appreciate you being here. And I will go ahead and start off here in Workday here. And I've just logged in as Daryl Parker. Daryl Parker is sort of a director of projects. He may have a position similar to yours, Javier, where he's responsible for a large portfolio of projects, perhaps a division. And he really needs to make sure that the projects are being executed completely and well, and that we're able to collect the cash and recognize the revenue for those projects. Now, as Javier mentioned, one of the advantages of Workday is the built-in analytics in the transactional system of record. And so we're going to take a look at just one of these dashboards here that someone like Javier would use to manage the business. Workday actually ships with over 100 dashboards and over 3,000 reports, but it's easy to create your own dashboards as well and even copy reports and create new ones that way. So what we can see up here in the upper left-hand corner really is a consulting financial performance report helping Daryl understand how his part of the business is doing. So it's not the entire business, but maybe one particular division, typical P&L, as you would expect, where he's looking at current year-to-date actuals against budget, seeing the variance and whether or not that's favorable or unfavorable with the indicator in the right-hand column. Of course, we've got headcount information embedded in the report as well, because as you heard Patrice mention, it's a single solution for core HR as well as finance. So we're able to bring all of that rich data together. But obviously what Daryl's most concerned about is revenue and revenue performance. And so here in Workday, we offer a multi-dimensional general ledger that allows for drilling by the normal dimensions that you would expect in a traditional chart of accounts, like legal entity, natural account, cost center, division, maybe some other items that people typically have. But where Workday really differentiates itself is that ability to drill on operational dimensions and analytical dimensions that normally wouldn't be found in a traditional chart of accounts code block. Things like project, customer, worker, sales item, etc. So if I'm Daryl and I want to really understand how my revenue is performing, the first thing I might do is look at this by customer. And now I can see which customers are contributing to my overall revenue. And then I might want to understand what are they purchasing. And so I might look at that by revenue category or even sales item, which is down to the product level. Now I can see the customers and what they're purchasing, and keep drilling on a particular customer to understand maybe what are the projects that we're running for these customers and how are those projects performing. And so here I see that this particular customer has a single project, and I may want to even further drill on that to get all the way down to the worker level to understand which of my workers are contributing to this revenue. These are the types of analytics that you would generally have to do in a business intelligence tool from data stored in a data warehouse. But in Workday, this is a system of record, and it's your transactional system. So these analytics and data are always up to date. There's no latency. There's no integrations that you have to create and maintain. And all of this data is actionable right from where we are. So for example, here I can see that Eve is one of my top revenue performers. I might want to take a related action on Eve and understand a little bit more about her. So here I've got her address. I see she works in our business services consulting in the UK. And I can go ahead and take actions according to my security right here from this report that we started at. Maybe I want to see what work assignment she's working on, find a new project for her to work on, or maybe go ahead and give her some anytime feedback, look at her goals, etc. Of course, all of these actions are secured based on my role. And in my case, Eve happens to be one of my indirect reports. So I'm able to take quite a few actions there. But I'm able to do that right here from this report because of the fact that Workday allows for you to have these transactions and analysis in a single product. If we look a little bit further down the page, we can also see some information on the invoices we've been sending out to our customers. So obviously it's important to make sure that we're able to translate all of our hard work and value that we're delivering to our customers into cash at the end of the day so that we're able to kind of recapture that value. And so right here, I can see all of the invoices I've been sending out. Of course, Workday is a fully multi-currency system. So you can see we're invoicing in euros, Danish kroner, USD, and GBP. And this part of the business, of course, Workday will do all the translations simultaneously. What I can also see here is that I've got some collection information on this one particular invoice that's quite a ways past due. So I can see there have been some collection attempts, it's in collections, it's in dispute, and we can even read the notes here to understand what's happening. So I see I've got an unhappy customer, and I also see that their customer sat is only 2 stars. This is an example of how we can import data from a CRM tool, just as Javier mentioned, so that you can really get an overall picture, a holistic view of your customer's health, which includes that rich CRM data along with the Workday data as well. So obviously the customer isn't paying on time and they're unsatisfied. There's something that I need to do about that. Of course, if I look a little bit further down the page, Workday supports a variety of revenue recognition options, including deferred revenue, accrued revenue, and revenue at the time of invoicing. So of course, if you're recognizing revenue daily or weekly based on timesheets, you'll have work in process or unbilled AR, and you'll need to stay on top of that to make sure that you're billing that out on time. Of course, project profitability is part and parcel of the system, understanding our revenue, direct costs, labor costs, and gross profit, and understanding our labor margin is something important for any executive. You heard Patrice talk about how we're integrated or a single solution with HCM and resource demand. Understanding that unmet resource demand is important because it represents the opportunity cost of projects that I've started but have not yet fully staffed. So here I can see a number of projects that are started. We have outstanding roles that need to be filled, but we don't have people in those roles, which means that we're actually losing money at this contract billing rate and for these estimated hours, the opportunity cost of not having filled those roles. Now, for some of those roles, we've actually opened a job requisition. These are larger long-term projects that we want to hire someone specifically for that project. And as an executive, I can understand exactly how my recruiting effort is going and see if there's anything I can do to speed things along. So right here from this dashboard, I can get immediate insight into the hiring manager and the recruiter. I can see I've got 4 candidates in my funnel, one of them being in the offer stage. And I can actually even view that funnel and go ahead and take a look at the candidates, look at their CVs, their interview feedback, any ranking. And again, if it were my job, I could go ahead and actually take action and move a candidate forward in the process right from here, all starting from an analytic that helped me understand the cost of not having these project roles filled. Finally, back to the top of the page, of course, staffing and financials and billing are all important components of a PSA solution, but obviously delivering your projects on time, on budget, and with a high level of quality is, of course, your core business. And so here we're able to understand how my projects are performing across a variety of metrics, some of which would be sort of entered in by the project manager, so the project manager's overall health assessment, and some of which would be calculated fields to help you understand how you're doing. And as you can see here, this one project that we saw with the satisfaction issues is kind of red from a PM perspective. We've got some risks. And so at this point, as an executive, I'd really want to click in and try to understand this project a bit better and see what's going on. So this is what the project looks like in Workday. I've got some information here about the dates. You heard that we're able to link projects to initiatives and hierarchies. You heard Javier describe how those hierarchies are used for reporting and also to automate security and setup so that people can only see and do things to the projects that they're meant to see and do things to. Of course, we're able to run projects in any currency, billing in this case in GBP, but doing our budgeting in USD, and also accepting expenses and supplier invoices from any other transactional currency. And of course, the projects are all flagged with various work tags or business dimensions, which is that dimensionality that you saw me drilling on in my very first vignette. So this is how we drive the revenue and the cost to the right place or the right dimensions in the general ledger. We set it up one time correctly on the project, and then that lets us do all that analysis that we did earlier. Of course, we've got our project plan that allows us to plan out our work breakdown structure by phase and task. Coming up soon, we'll support a up to 10 level work breakdown structure. Of course, we've got a Gantt chart that's available in a simple bidirectional integration to Microsoft Project for that detailed sort of scheduling algorithm. Of course, we can track risks, assign tasks to resources, and obviously we want to understand the budget of our project and the indicators there. So here we can see kind of 3 different indicators showing us how we're doing on this particular project. So 67% of the days have elapsed, but we're only 45% complete. That's a bit of a problem. We've only consumed 43% of the cost. So maybe we just need to do some rescoping there. Down here, I can understand the total cost of my project. Workday is going to allow us to cost our labor either according to burdened rates based on compensation data stored in Workday's core HR module, or according to standard rates, or both. The standard rates are typically blended across a large number of people. They're anonymized, and it's typically a fixed rate that project managers can manage to. While the burden rates, which are secured separately and can be hidden from project managers, will more closely correspond to actual direct payroll costs. Workday does allow, of course, for any number of plans and budgets. So you can have monthly forecasts, you can do some sort of what ifs if you need to, but we'll always have a plan of record or baseline plan, which would represent your approved funding or statement of work amount. And then we'll have at least the current forecast. Of course, we've got full amendment control, especially important for those change requests and change control process on the statement of works. And we'll help you understand your total revenue and cost, inception to date, and margin right here in a single view. If I want to move over a little bit, though, to staffing and resource management, you'll see the important tie-in to our HR core system of record. So here on the Resources tab, I can see my project roster. These are the different roles and people on my team. You can see that some of these roles have already been staffed with named resources. One of them is to be hired, so that's a job requisition that we looked at earlier. And we have a couple of other unfilled roles that are waiting to be staffed. These are the folks that we need to get onto the project so that we can get this project back into the green and make sure that it's successful. Now, Workday supports a variety of staffing models. So obviously for many of your projects, you'll want to assign workers directly and describe the type of worker that you want to assign, which I'll come to momentarily. But we also have the ability to associate a group of workers to a project so that if you want any number of groups of resources to be able to charge time to the project, maybe it's a QA group or a customer care type group without assigning individual resources, you're certainly able to do that. Further down on the page, I can actually see the project role requirements that the project manager will have entered to describe the type of person that we need to fill this role. And if I look at those options that I have available to me, you can see that all of the information that would be stored in the core HR system of record about a worker is available to us to match and find the right worker. So perhaps a certain certification is required, or the worker needs to come from a certain cost center or job family, or speak a certain language, or be located in a specific city or region, or even most excitingly, have certain skills. Now, this is an innovation that Workday has really done a lot of work on, which is our Skills Cloud. Skills has typically provided a strong challenge for professional services organizations because they typically have to maintain a list of hundreds or even thousands of skills. The naming of the skills is different from organization to organization, and there's a lot of duplication, and skills, of course, are constantly changing. So to help on this front, Workday has introduced the Skills Cloud, which allows our customers to automatically subscribe to a deduplicated, normalized set of skills, which has been deduplicated and normalized using machine learning algorithm so that they don't have to maintain a list of skills in their tenants, and they can spend their time doing other more important things. So here I've searched for the word Java, for example, and you see I get a number of skills related to Java, including words that don't have the word Java in it. So it's not a substring match, it's a true machine learning algorithm to help us identify related skills so that you don't have to maintain a skills inventory yourself. So now that I've described the type of worker I need, the next thing I would probably do is go in and try to find the workers that match these criteria. And for that, I'm going to go ahead and jump over as a resource manager. This would be Carol Abbott. She's my resource manager. And it might be her job to come in here to these projects and go ahead and fill those unmet resource needs. So if I look at this associate consultant here, we need this person 50% for this date range. And we're going to go ahead and find workers and try to see who we can fill on this project for this role. Workday presents us with a faceted search where the requirements that we previously listed are already pre-filtered for us, but we can obviously make changes here if we need a greater or smaller result set. So here I can see that there are 5 associate consultants that match those requirements, and I can start to see which ones might be available and right for the job. So it looks like Callum here, based in London, is fully utilized with this other project, and he's also got some holiday for a couple of weeks. Having Workday allows you to have a single view of your workers' availability because our absence, any pre-approved absence and company holidays will automatically decrement availability and show up here as you're seeing. So you don't have to maintain those separately. It does look like Magali might have some time, at least in these first 2 weeks. She's from Paris, so she has a different work schedule. So she is working only 35 hours a week, as you can see from this 35. So again, Workday will handle all of your regional localizations and different work schedules for different folks in different countries. So at this point, it looks like my 2 candidates might be Anwar and Magali. So let's go ahead and compare these 2 side by side so that we can understand which might be the best person for the job. At this point, Workday opens a report, which is, of course, configurable. You can change this to meet your specific needs, but it's lining up these 2 folks side by side so I can understand all about them and figure out who might be the best person for the job. So I've got tenure and position and prior job info from core HCR. I've got competencies and education from talent and core HCR. We could certainly put skills on here as well. I can see the other jobs or projects that they've worked on. And I can actually, if you want to surface this information, which is entirely up to you, I can understand how they're performing and if they're, get data about talent or performance along with standard cost information. So this helps me make the decision. And from here, I think that maybe Anwar might be the best person for the job. So at this point, I can go ahead and select Anwar and staff or book him to my project. Now, anytime you see an orange button like this in Workday, it's going to be launching a business process. Business processes control every transaction that happens in Workday, whether they're HR transactions, project transactions, or financial transactions. So at this point, we're sending off a request for Anwar, and it could go, of course, to the project manager to approve. It could go to the resource line manager to approve. In this case, you can see that we're going over to the project manager, and a number of project managers have gotten the action item to request the person. Now, you heard Javier talk about how adaptable Workday has been and how that's helped them grow. These business processes are one of the ways that Workday helps people adapt because they can be configured with points and clicks without requiring any coding. It's a type of job that a business analyst can do. It doesn't require any IT overhead. Now, of course, we've just booked a person to a project at one particular project, but of course, what's likely to happen is that your resource managers will use a centralized dashboard to actually do this. And I think, Javier, you mentioned recently that you've rolled out sort of centralized resource management. So I assume you're using this dashboard or a similar one for your resource managers to do their staffing. Is that right?
Indeed, yeah, indeed. We are using this dashboard and the resource pool manager dashboard, which is very useful for finding out which staff needs to be assigned and which request needs to be covered.
Perfect. And this is, again, one of those out-of-the-box dashboards. Of course, you're able to add tabs or reports to it as you'd like. So what you can see here is really two sides of the resource manager coin. The first left here is staffing that needs attention. So this is the reactive side. So this is where I can see my projects that have unmet needs, and I can go ahead and launch the Find Worker from here so that I can do all of them at one time. Again, I can see the urgency, the start date, and I can click in and get more information. So rather than navigating to individual projects, I can do that in a centralized fashion here. Of course, that's a bit reactive. The proactive side of the coin is looking at workers rolling off projects in the next 30, 60, or 90 days and trying to find work for them so that I'm managing my bench. Or again, workers that are maybe under or over allocated and finding work for them, again, to manage my bench or alleviate burnout. Again, right from here, you can see that I can take that related action and I can do the manage work, find project for worker, which allows me to find projects for this worker and manage my bench. By the way, workers can take that action for themselves, so they can actually proactively look for projects for themselves to work on. Perhaps the other thing worth mentioning here is a bit of a macro capacity planning type use case, where I need to understand my overall supply and demand so that I can understand, again, do I need to go to market to hire? Do I need to bring on some subcontractors, et cetera? And from here, I can see sort of a monthly view of capacity. So for all the folks in my organization by month, I understand what's their sort of project demand, any PTO they have coming up, which is their total scheduled, and then what's remaining. This is going to help me make those decisions about hiring or going to market to contract. And for the simple kind of load balancing, Workday does offer the manage worker assignment task, which allows me to basically go ahead and view my folks in a grid, again, see how busy they are, and go ahead and kind of load balance or manage work amongst my folks right here in the grid. So here I can see who's over or under allocated using the indicators. Looks like Connor's a little too busy. I see he's on 3 different projects. So maybe I want to just click in and go ahead and change his allocation percentage or change his date range and then go ahead and submit it. So a centralized place for load balancing. At this point, we'll quickly switch over to our billing and revenue recognition, just to help you understand how all of that is done. Workday automates billing and revenue recognition by means of what we call a contract. So our contracts allow you to determine how you want to bill time, expense reports, any supplier invoice lines that you need to pass along, as well as any miscellaneous expenses. And of course, as you heard Javier mention, we support a variety of billing and rev rec mechanisms. Time and materials, fixed fee based on milestones, percent complete, accrued revenue, deferred revenue, etc. As my timesheet transactions are coming in, many of our customers want to perform a secondary project review. So of course, the timesheet transaction itself needs to be approved, but also there's often a billing review. This might be done by a partner or a billing coordinator. And this location is where we're able to look at all of those transactions ready to be billed and actually click in and go ahead and make changes to them as needed. So from the central review, I can go ahead and mark rates up or down. I can go ahead and zero out hours or amounts to bill. I can change rates if needed. And of course, I can go ahead and transfer or move time or expenses to other projects. Of course, when I'm all done with my review, it's a simple matter of creating my project invoices. Of course, most of our customers will actually do this, in a scheduled basis, probably weekly, nightly, or even monthly. But for demo's sake, of course, I can go ahead and choose the invoices here that I'd like to create. And we'll just go ahead and take the one project we've been looking at and go ahead and create those invoices. Now, while those invoices are created or are being created, we'll just take a quick look at the contract, which is where we specify those revenue and billing terms. Workday is always going to keep track of the total contract amount, how much you billed, and any amount sitting in accrued or deferred revenue. In this case, for this particular contract, we're recognizing revenue at the time of billing, so we don't have a deferred revenue balance. We've got full amendment control on the contract as well as on the project, so that when statements of work change, you can reflect those changes in billing and automatically update the billing and revenue recognition schedules. And we do have billing and revenue recognition schedules that can be divorced from each other in the case that you are recognizing revenue separate from billing. In this case, we're recognizing them together on a transactional basis. And we're able to actually include attachments from supplier invoices and or expense reports to your customer invoices so that you get that backup you need and that your customers are expecting when they are receiving their invoices. So here I can see my invoice has been generated. It's generated in draft mode, which means that I have yet one more chance to review it, circulate it amongst my partners or project manager, whoever the case may be, before it's actually submitted and ready to be sent out to my clients. You can see that the expense report attachments are automatically attached to the electronic invoice, and they will be attached to the PDF when we go ahead and send it out to our customer. So at this point, all that's left to do is actually print the customer invoice and then email it out. And of course, this is, again, one of those jobs that you would schedule to happen right after the creation of the invoices, or even perhaps a couple days later. It doesn't have to be done manually. If you do set up billing contacts with email addresses in the customer profile, then Workday will be able to email those invoices to the customer with the PDF and the attachments for the expense receipts. And of course, while that's happening, Workday's automatically generated the accounting that you would expect, so that we've automatically booked this information to the general ledger so that it's ready to go. Take a quick look at the printing run. Of course, the printing runs will be stored on the electronic invoice so that you can always understand from a collections perspective what was sent and when. Was it a copy? Was it a draft? Was it a reprint? And of course, you're able to customize these invoice formats as needed to meet your customer requirements. And so there's so much more we could say about automating billing and revenue recognition. But in the interest of time, I did want to hit on some of the main points that Javier spoke about in terms of the centralized resource management, the automation of RevRec and billing, and just some of that adaptability that Workday facilitates with its sort of cloud platform and native SaaS platform. And so with that, I'm going to turn it back over to you, Patrice.
Thank you, Ben. Just go back in and share my screen. Ben, that was great. It is not easy to do a fast PSA demo. We know there's so much functionality associated with all of the capabilities around PSA. So thanks for hitting the highlights and also specifically touching on some things that Javier mentioned. That was great. With that, just wrapping up, a couple of key takeaways. I think that it came through loud and clear through each of the portions of the agenda that Workday is a single platform and gives you the ability to manage your people, projects, and financials on a single platform, which is really game-changing in this industry for services firms. You also saw from Ben and heard from Javier about the business insights. So if you're managing all of the key elements of your business on a single platform, truly the system allows brand new insights and shows things to business leaders in such a way that they can make decisions with confidence about the future of the firm. And certainly it's an engagement, it's a tool to support your employee engagement goals in terms of not just being able to continue to communicate effectively with your employees, but doing things like Javier mentioned, where the employee is actually interacting with the projects and the forecast impact the outcome. So thank you both so much for presenting with me today. And with that, I'd like to just mention that if you want any more information or would like to learn more about our PSA solution or our entire offerings for this industry, please go to our industry page at workday.com. Thank you.
Thanks, Patrice. Thanks, Javier.